Hi, here's Florian with a new podcast guest. So I would say introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi Florian, thanks for having me here today. I'm Lars Giere and I'm currently the head of financing, so global head of financing and incubation for mobile.de, or better to say the eBay Classifieds group.
Cool. So how did you get this job? What's the story behind it?
So it's a longer story, and it's also a strange job title, isn't it? So at least for me it is. So basically I get in this position through various roles that I had in mobile.de. So basically back then, like 6.5 years ago now, I started at mobile.de as the product manager, being responsible for mobile. I was basically, it was still the phase where mobile was something new for lots of companies. Yeah. And I've been doing the mobile product management for Immobilien Scout before. And then I went to mobile.de. So also classifieds business, but another area, not real estate, but cars. And there then I progressed from one job to the next, so to say. And after a certain time, I then was responsible for the product management of everything that you could see to the outside, which one would refer to now, I think, as consumer. And then basically I changed to the business side after that, because I learned that at least within the role that I was in there, and product management is slightly differently defined in all companies, but I learned that there are boundaries of what I could be doing. So basically I was at the point where I wanted to dig deeper into sales, into operations, into marketing, and how all those things really work. And this is where I kind of felt the boundaries of being just a product manager and switched over to a business role. And my first business role was then to build up a new business for mobile.de. That went pretty successful. Then I went on to the second one that also went pretty successful. And this is how I got there.
So what for a new business you built up for them?
So the first one was honestly a defensive play against Wir kaufen ein Auto or Auto One, which was basically the question back then for us was, there is this strong player now coming and it's growing pretty aggressively and quickly, and what does this do to our classifieds business? Right? And do we need to act on that? And then if yes, how should we act on that? Right? Yeah. Should we build up a different business model than what they do? Is it just possible in the exactly same business model? Should you buy someone? Should you partner someone? Yeah. Should you build it on your own? And those were all the questions that needed to be answered in the beginning. And we found out pretty quickly then that basically all the other business models that existed in the market could never achieve the same traction as the Wir kaufen ein Auto model. Most of them were auction-based models. And they had a few flaws in the business model itself, because the service design, especially in the end of the business model, was a little bit problematic, because in those auctions, it sounds really cool, right? You're putting your car online, then the models were, ich will mein Auto loswerden, easy auto sale and car sale 24, right? And the issue there with the business model was that in the end you had a service experience. You put your car online. You then get bids from a lot of car dealers. You of course needed to describe your car as good as possible. But then it took a few days until all the bids came in. Then the car dealer still needed to pick up your car, and it was Germany-wide. So sometimes it took a little bit of time. And then what often happened, what we realized when we tested that together with a partner, was that the car dealers were then finding stuff that was not okay with the car, lowering the prices again. But after waiting then for like 7 days, even 2 weeks sometimes, this was a really painful process for people. So service ratings for this model were poor, and it was harder also to attract people into that than with the Wir kaufen ein Auto business model, which was back at the time when they started that, really something that a few car dealers did, but on much smaller scale. Right, so really genius what they built up there, and and we then built up a defensive play against Wir kaufen ein Auto back then.
So Wir kaufen ein Auto was just buying the cars directly from the consumers, and so they didn't have the hassle to find the right partner, right?
Yes, so the business model is a little bit like what I would call a C2B2B business model.
Okay.
Because what they do is they actually buy the cars, put them on their balance sheet, but then they resell them through different channels to other car dealers.
Okay.
Right?
So they're the middleman, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's less hassle for car dealers to get the right portfolio back into their stock, so to say.
So how did you approach the defensive strategies? Because there was already a play on the market, and Mobile had some traffic already, they had some users already. So how did you start about that?
So and now comes the area where I need to think what I'm allowed to tell you and what I'm not allowed to tell you, right? So let me think about how I can answer the question best. So basically first, what I believe you need to do is to find out, okay, why are customers in this case it was a little bit easier than if you start on a blank page, right? Because you knew, okay, you have an interest of customers there because someone else is growing. Although like the user ratings of Wir kaufen ein Auto were very mixed. So it was not like the NPS, Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction killer model. But still there was enough proof that there is something there. And they found product market fit. So basically that was off the table, right? And so you still needed to find out as the player coming in, okay, why are people attracted by that model, and what are the specific things that attract them, and what do you need to copy out of that, so to say, And then if you found out, okay, what are the elements that are really attractive to this player, next you need to think about, in the specific case we've been in, what are the assets that we have at hand as the already big brand in the market.
Correct,
that you can leverage to have an unfair advantage. Right? And those things are things that you can then need to mix together to build something that has a chance to succeed. And this is then following a lot of the rules that you find in how you execute that you have also when you're building up a startup, right? You still need to build your MVP. You still need to do customer development properly. You still need to work very metrics driven and data driven to do the right things and make the right decisions. And to understand, okay, in which areas are things that you need to optimize and or should optimize, because especially in the beginning, you have too many possibilities and not enough time. So this is only changing later stage, that it's turning around the other way.
So how do you choose the first right possibility? Like, you have some advantages, probably you have easier access to users, you have already a branding and so on, so you don't need to think about that. How do you choose then the first correct testing ways, or the correct things to test?
So basically it depends a lot on So the approach that I like most in the very beginning, is that you really think about your major risks that you have in the business model. So basically how how our backlog in the very beginning looks like is just a list of risks prioritized by the highest risk. And highest risk meaning really, okay, if this goes wrong, the whole business model won't work. And this then really involves everything from legal stuff to customer satisfaction things, and this can really be everything, right? So marketing costs, customer acquisition costs can be one thing, or regulatory aspects. Then it can be everything, if that makes sense. So this is in the very beginning how I like to prioritize.
Yeah,
because it's really about that. Because no business failed because you didn't have this one great idea. In reality, every business that I've seen and every founder that I've spoken so far to is saying, okay, it's always not this one big thing. People believe that, right? That you have this one big idea, and then basically this is it, and then you just need to execute that. But it's like 1,000 different little pieces that need to fit together, and you just should avoid to fall into the largest traps and risks in the beginning. So you need to de-risk a lot.
Cool.
It's maybe not that romantic, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is to me what I found to be the most reasonable approach to tackle things, and to really bring things live quickly. So this first business, for example, so from start of the project to having live a fully functioning business took us just 3 months with this approach.
Oh, that's quite quick, especially for a business which is already quite big and established.
We took a lot of hacks there to do that, basically.
What would you say were the 3 main hacks, or the 3 things which made it work? Because I could imagine.
You mean that we were quick?
To make it quick, Because I can imagine if Allianz wants to launch something in 3 months.
Working in the beginning, right? So this is what I'm talking. So it wasn't at all. So the first 2 weeks it was just like always when you're starting something new. It wasn't working at all, right? I was just sitting there checking my stats every 5 minutes because I had then the dashboard that I built myself back then.
So you built the fast prototype first and fast kind of...
So how we achieved that? That was your question, sorry. But it didn't work business-wise in the beginning, of course. So how we achieved that is... So I thought a lot about, okay, why are things moving slower for us than for others? And this is mostly what I truly believe in is the focus of people and how costly it is to switch contexts. And what has been tried in the past is that you tell people, all right, someone who is really good in the company, mostly those people then get those projects. They have to work 20% on that special project, right? And then they have 4 other projects like that, which leaves them
20% for each.
Maximum 5% of time to think about that, maybe. So let's say a few hours a week, and this is roughly what you need to align. But that said, so I've seen that this model is not working. So I chose an approach that was like really counterintuitive to most people from the agile world, because I said, all right, I want to build everything straight from the beginning, or especially in the beginning, with companies that don't work with people that don't work in mobility.
Okay.
And I was looking then for agencies with the right mindset to still work like I want to work. This is something I connected then in the beginning to people in my network that I knew, okay, they were on the way to build up something like that, and try to find those people, and always saying, okay, because what you have in a corporate is budget. What you don't have is people, right?
So people with the right mindset, you mean? Probably
not even that. Even the people with the right mindset. But if you then get something, you won't get like 100% of someone, but those 20% that don't bring you that much.
Always have reliables and other projects.
And it's more painful for the company as well to give you 20% of that guy. It's less painful to give you money to build that with someone else, right? So, and this is of course a setup that can't hold long, but it works perfectly to build up stuff quickly. And I was also then lucky, otherwise it would not have been possible to build it up in 3 months from the ground. And also what we did before, of course, is all this, before we then started really actually, this is more the way how we operationalized and then really executed on the plan that we had. But what we did is in the very beginning, we started a very quick process to learn all the things that we needed to learn and to de-risk the business model. So this took us around 4 to 6 weeks. Then we were clear enough how the business model could look like. And then basically we iterated on that still while development was taking place. But we knew enough to kick things off.
Was then the first 4 to 6 weeks more development-wise that you said, okay, we want to test certain user behaviors, or was it more regulatory, just
interviews really?
Interviews with the users and ask them certain things.
It was interviews with the users and smoke tests and tests with partners with existing business models. This is what we did first. This is also an advantage that you should not underestimate if you're working in an existing company. Your access to potential partners is super easy. Right? So and of course this can be a big benefit to each partner.
So I hear the theory that like it makes sense to take the business model canvas just as a risk profile and then go from there, or did you use that, or did you just have brainstormed some facts on a list
model canvas
and then prioritize them and then go from there, or how did you track that and take the action list?
I like the business model canvas a lot. Right, so I think it's an excellent tool. After some time of usage, it gets a little bit useless because you then understand, okay, what are the inner workings that you need to cover, and then you don't need the canvas anymore, right? But still, it's a very good structured way to think about businesses, in my opinion. And this is a helpful tool to come up with risks, but this is more like the risk that I see with all those tools that are developed in the lean startup / design thinking space. Is not so much in what I did back then. But if you look at other models, is that this is very much inwards looking, right? It's looking very much of, okay, how does your business model function, and what should you do to build up something that customers need. And you kind of have those two aspects, and I'm not saying that this is unimportant, it's super important, but sometimes I have the feeling that this is too tempting for a lot of people to then forget about the rest that people have done in the last century, so to say, and the economical methods that have been developed back then, because lots of them are still very useful, and it still makes sense to look at market sizes, and it still makes sense to look at, okay, what part of the market can you really attract? And it's sometimes so I have the feeling that lots of people think, okay, this is not valid anymore, but it is very much. So I like the combination of those two things a lot, actually. Right? So it's not that the things back then were bad. It's just like now with all the methodologies that we have, especially in online businesses, but also in more like classical industries, it's the same with that you can iterate much faster. For us, it's clear in technology businesses because basically now you can push live things every second if you want to, and you can bring changes live so quickly. But also for like production industries with 3D printers, your prototyping speed evolved a lot. So basically your testing cycles can be much shorter. And this is basically to me the core thing. So of this whole new approach, right? So you have shorter iteration cycles for everything. So it makes much more sense to just throw your ideas out and see if it sticks, right? Instead of hypothesizing too long about that. So this is kind of the thing. But in other areas, it might not make sense at all to take that approach, but really taking a more planning and careful approach where you can't achieve those really short cycles.
So research, for example, is probably a topic.
Research always makes sense in my opinion.
No,
right? because otherwise you don't understand anything.
No, I mean like scientific research is a bit more difficult to test things fast because it's
Depends
more
on the area most likely. Right?
Yeah, okay, you're right. So probably medicine, for example, it's kind of hard to like make rapid testing there.
Yeah, it also depends on the area most likely and what you are tackling, and if you want to make a business out of that and you need to jump through all the regulatory hurdles, I think that's tough. But there you need careful planning. Yes. And that you're completely right with your example. So that could be one of the areas where more careful planning is better than just throwing ideas out. Right?
And then you use the user interviews and you're lowering from risk on the beginning, like to just clear the picture, to make some things clear, get it out of the way, and then some things stick there. And then you could say, okay, on that we're starting to develop and like test them through prototypes, something probably,
yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And one of the important things that I always like to stress is that when you are working for a company, and I also stressed it in the talk that I gave where we met, is that basically you also need to find something that I call product company fit, because a business model that doesn't fit to what your company wants won't help you at all, because you will lose your only funding possibility. So this won't bring you anywhere then. So this is something that makes your life, of course, a lot more difficult. But at the same time, you're getting many assets usually in return. If the company really is after it, and really wants you to succeed. So this is kind of a fair exchange, I would say. Right? You're getting access to assets that usually it's really hard to get access to. You really need to build strong business relationships for that, and you get that for free, which is brilliant. But of course, the price is that some of the business models that you could be playing, you're not allowed to play.
I'm wondering right now, how hard was it for you to get this budget for the external people? Like, it's a cool idea, it's a cool concept, but I'm wondering if you would go as a PO and say, hey, I have a good idea, I think we should do that. Give me budget for people for 6 months, and I will prove that it works. And I need not only one. I need a team out of probably designers and some developers. And was it hard, or was there enough trust that they said, yeah, sure, go for it?
So actually, it was not that hard. I needed to do a few things for that, but I think what you refer to with the trust is really important, right? So first of all, I didn't say I need a team to do X, Y, Z. So I was very, very careful about what do I need and what don't I need, right? And I really could explain, okay, I need this for that, I need this for that, I need this for that, right? So, of course, this is most likely bullshit after 2 months, and everyone knows that, and you need to explain that all the time. This is what I did, yeah, because it's like I was not in a product management role when I started that, right? So this is also, I was in a business role.
Okay.
Right? So, and my purpose was to build up this defensive play. So it was not my idea. Yeah. Right, which makes it also easier.
Okay, so it was your
So and basically,
the company,
basically the expectation that the company had was more like, all right, now we have this guy, he's looking at it, and how it all went in the past always is like, now 6 months someone is looking at the market and making funky slides.
Yeah, exactly.
And then basically you get a big funding, and then most likely after 2 years you realize, okay, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
This was, and it was more like, the difficult part was more like, okay, this is not how we're going to roll this time. We do it slightly different.
Yeah.
And getting the buy-in for that. And there was much doubt that you can succeed with that. But actually, the money that I needed was tiny compared to what people usually ask for, right? Yeah. So that's why they wanted to give you much more money, and I told them, no, wait, I don't need that. It doesn't make sense, because throwing 50 people at something that 5 people should be working on max, is not a good idea. It wasn't 50 people. I would not have gotten that much money, but just making it a little bit more extreme to make my point here. So it's more people don't help you in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So this is I think the important. You need to really understand crystal clear what know-how and specialties you really need to win. This is something. All people from my team, I think they are totally fed up, and me saying and stretching all the time, saying, okay, this is this type of play we are in. And then I'm always like, okay, the play we are in now is a tech, marketing, operations play. We need to be excellent in those 3. We need to do all the other stuff. But those 3, we need to be excellent. Product management, nice. But not so important here. You know what I mean? And this is or the other way around. It can be, it's okay, this is just a pure product and I don't know, marketing play. This would be...
We need to be amazing in tech for the product.
Or not. Tech is maybe commodity. Right? Because basically you can get that by pulling stuff from NPM and just having it in there. So this is I think really essential to understand, okay, what do you need to be excellent in? And what are the things that you just need to do?
But how did you choose the skills for the team if it was not clear what you need exactly, because you were not clear how certain research turned out, how certain tests turned out?
After the initial research, so we had the first initial 4 to 6 weeks were really just research, and there's one method. I don't know if it by now has really a good name that I really found to be. I was looking really for lots of research methods to really bring your learning more and more to the front. This was what I tried when I started as a product manager. Because I started as a product manager now like 8.5 years ago, something like that. So and I started building online products when I was 12. I know those days where basically you are throwing out things and just looking at your stats in an Apache log file. This was basically the way to go. So and then when I started then after studying again as a product manager in an online business, of course I was also one of those guys who just threw out features without tracking, and then sitting there and thinking, was it now a good idea or wasn't it? Right? And then you start realizing, all right, maybe next time we should track that. That sounds like a not too bad idea. And then basically I started from those one very extreme. How can we bring those learnings more and more to the front? So because one day then you realize, okay, how how can we make it possible to understand whether a feature would work before we launch it? My answer would be no, you can't. Not fully, of course, but you can get an idea in which area to play. That's what I would say. You can get an idea about the problem space you're solving for. Not about the solution. The solution is still something you can't really predict that too much through interviews. But the problem space, yes. And this is how I evolved there. And the only method that I found to be then being kind of universal when you do your initial problem research is something that I got to know as directed storytelling. This is how I learned the phrase that I learned. I don't know how commonly used that is right now. I've also seen it as post-it, story map or whatever. But basically you are having interviews with people with that method where you let them go through their customer journey of the field or area that you want to improve on, right? And then you draw things down and write things down, what they tell you. You go through it once again, ask them if you, then you read it out to them, ask them if you forgot something, and then you go the third time through it and ask them really how they felt in certain moments or where you found something that is interesting. And this is something, you need all those three iterations really to get the interesting stuff out of people, because the first go through is really just to bring people back into the situation. The second one, they start to remember stuff that was important to them, because sometimes, especially the important stuff for you as someone developing products, is forgotten by the people in the first iteration. And the third one is then really where you're getting the meat, because then people are really deep into the situation again, and then it's starting to get interesting really, because then you're asking for emotions and how did you feel, what could have been better at this point or not, and what were the problems that you were facing. So it's really much more emotional than, and the results that you can get out of that, in my opinion, are fantastic, really.
So you do the three things right after each other, or
directly after each other. So you have one interview, and also the surroundings are in my opinion, super important. So I always do that in one cafe, especially not in a research room, because I think it's for that type of interviews, it's too sterile. It doesn't work. People don't open up. I've never seen that someone opens up in a research lab. Never ever. I don't believe in that. And then you need to sit with them in a cafe. It needs to feel like sitting there with a friend, and talking about your experience. And in this cafe, it's I'm really taking care of that. It's this cafe. It's loud enough that people feel private. But it's not too loud that it's hard to listen to each other. And you know what I mean? So the surroundings really need to be right for qualitative research, and you need to have the right people, of course. So the recruiting needs to be really good. Otherwise, it's shit in, shit out.
You need to kind of have an idea what a target group is like, and find someone from this target group. And then,
otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
And then you just talk about like the normal problem, like for example, I want to sell my car. How did they try to sell their car and how they failed, or do you go right away in a potential solution, say what happens if we do it like that?
Usually I would so let's go into the car selling example, right? So what I would try to do is I would try to find people that recently sold their car and are then an interesting customer group for the type of model, right? And then I would really simply start this conversation most likely with the question, okay, why did you take the decision to sell the car? And this is the only question that I really prepare, is the starting question. Because all the rest you need to be really much more listening and interacting, and really trying to understand the user's journey than following a strict plan, if that makes sense. Yeah, of course, you have then some additional questions that you can do afterwards that you just wanna clarify on. Sometimes you have that, but especially in the very beginning, what I found that this is not super helpful, because you're preventing to learn the most interesting things. And then when you found something, I also, what we did all the time is like we have iterations of those interviews. So basically we found out, for example, that especially older people that already found a new car are the most interesting group to target for this business model. It's not true, but as an example. And then what we would do is we have another iteration with those people, because we thought, okay, there might be something with those guys, but we need to understand that better. So it's also like you start very broad and then you narrow things down, and the narrower you go, the better you can define, okay, who is an interesting audience for your product, and what is the problem really to solve for them. If that makes sense. You need to narrow down and
so you go and, like, if I tell you I sold my car because I need the money, then you probably ask, okay, how did you go about that? Like, how did you tackle that? And then
you really go for a customer journey. So if you don't have a clear understanding about the customer journey and the different pains and gains within the customer journey, your interview went wrong. This happens. But
So you mean like that I needed the money? That's the reason why I sold my car. It's not a good reason, or it's not the clear reason, or
it's whatever people tell you.
Okay.
Right, but you need to understand. Okay, how did they approach that then, and what were the different pain points in approaching that? And you might be surprised what steps are in the customer journey. And this is where always the magic lies. If you are able to really eliminate complete steps in a customer journey, this is magical. If you can just make them quicker, this is already good. Because it's much harder most of the time to develop new customer journeys. There are really, really rare cases of businesses that succeed like that. So most of the time it's taking what's there and making the customer journey more efficient.
So in the first step, you just ask questions, you record the customer journey, then you ask it back up if it's correctly, and then you go deeper in how did he feel in each step.
Yes, exactly. Especially then in those steps where you think that there's something interesting there, right? So this is then, of course, I mean, it's the danger with all qualitative things, right? The danger is always that nobody is free of biases. Exactly. The more you're trying to be aware of those biases, the better it might get, and the more practice you have, the better it might get. But you always have them, and confirmation bias is really, really hard to overcome. With those types of interviews, this is the tricky part. How do you overcome that, and are you able to overcome it?
And you need to see if this is representative of this target group and how big this target group is, and then if it works in that.
Totally. And this is one method that I really like in the beginning, the very first beginning, to understand, okay, where are customer problems that are worth solving for.
So what I really liked about your presentation where we met was that you said there the market, it's everything. You can execute really well on a shitty market and it will not work. You can execute bad on a good market and it will still kind of work and scale. So would you say the central elements to know that you find a good market to scale is these two parts, like the business model like the awareness of risks and the user journey? Or the understanding of a user journey? So
it's not just that. This is one side of the medal, so to say, and the other side is especially, in my opinion, then the market sizing itself. So all the things that economic theory that's been developed.
That's what you said, the economics
yes.
theory. So this is the third point.
Yes.
Are these 3 points then enough? Or is there something missing?
So basically you were saying that there's for sure something missing.
So the user journey to understand the problem?
So let me put it like that. I think if you really understood that you have a problem that's worth solving for, and that your solution is a fit to it. So if you have problem solution fit, and your problem is in a market that's attractive, and the market segment that you have in the market with this problem, is big enough. Then basically the rest should be, in theory, from what I learned so far, execution. But then execution, of course, can have so many hurdles. And I now learn that with my own thing that I'm doing right now so well, that there's like those 1,000 little pieces that need to fit together to really make it work. Right? And this is then also the question of your definition of product market fit, right? Is it that all those 1,000 little pieces already fit together? And I would say yes. This is to me the definition of it. Or is it just like, okay, you have something hypothetical there? This is a big difference. So I would say, okay, you also need to execute on that, and then prove that it's actually working.
So my last 2 questions. Question number 1: which books you can recommend, or which sources for education you could recommend or you used?
So lately I've been reading less than before, because there's just so much stuff to do with my kids and the business that I'm building up on the side, that there's not so much time. So the books that I really enjoyed lately, though, was The $1 Trillion Coach. It's something that I can really recommend, because it gives just interesting insight of how the mind of this coach is actually working, and how the mindset is behind training some of the most successful business people in the world. So this is really super interesting. And then honestly, my only really regular source of reading right now about all the tech stuff is a newsletter from Benedict Evans from Andreessen Horowitz. And his newsletter is, in my opinion, just summing it up perfectly. It's exactly what I need.
Cool.
It's a phrase to every topic. And if I want to read further, I can. And if not, I don't need to. So it doesn't force me to read through too many things. And but this is like half an hour that I take every week to read that. But besides that, I don't have anything regular that I read. So my times of hundreds of RSS feeds are over, I think.
Okay, yeah, cool. Why not? And the last question I always ask: if you could go back time to your younger self, to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him? What
would I tell my 18-year-old self?
You got out of school. What would you tell yourself?
I think studying was a good idea. But maybe I would tell myself after studying that instead of going after a regular job, first you should have that experience of building up your own company.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, it's even like even if you then fail, and chances are higher to fail. If you don't have that much experience. The learnings that you generate by building up your own things are invaluable, right? So and I think one shouldn't be afraid of doing that. Especially especially if you are somehow attached to online businesses. This is like the safety net that you're gonna experience is good. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Lars, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you a lot. It was fun, and thanks for having me in your podcast.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.